Welcome to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor, and as I like to remind you each and every week, I am also the author of a newsletter, Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks. And we are having a much better time so far this year with Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks. As I will note in a few minutes, the shares are up very, very strongly. Also like to remind you that I am also, or my company, Taylor Hard Money Advisors, is also in partnership with Chen Lin, who publishes What is Chen Buying, What is Chen Selling. And you can sign up for both of those newsletters, my newsletter as well as Chen's, at miningstocks.com. miningstocks.com, or you can call our office in New York, 718-457-1426, 718-457-1426. With respect to important news for our sponsors, Metanor announced today that it is beginning a drilling campaign to update the mineral resource on its Berry Gold project in Quebec, from where the company had some limited production back in 2010-2011. The purpose of the 1,200-meter drill program will be to validate the higher grade zones at the Berry Gold deposit and to establish the extension of those zones as well, with the view to high grade open pit mining, and then presumably they'll be hauling the ore down to the Bachelor Mill, which they did in the past. But lower grades, economics don't work. Higher grades can be quite profitable. So that's what they're working on. The company does have 781,000 ounces of gold there so far in various categories. Metanor had, during, as I mentioned, 2010, been producing from that deposit, but they do have to haul it a considerable ways from the mine to the mill. So anyway, it's a potential for adding profits. Also would note, as Ron Perry told us recently in an interview, that Bachelor Lake Mine itself will be producing higher grade material, and that should enhance the company's positive cash flows this quarter. Also, Avino Silver and Gold Mines just reported today that they have their quarterly production has gone up some 10% from last year to 715,933 silver equivalent ounces. They are on their way potentially to reaching upwards to 3 million ounces of silver equivalent ounces this year. And the big news for Avino is that it expects to start declaring commercial production from its Avino mine, and that really should help the cash flows coming out of that project very dramatically, as they're reported through the profit and loss statement. Now, keep in mind that the company has only 38.5 million shares outstanding, selling at $1.23 earlier today, at least in New York. It's a $47.3 million U.S. $1 million market cap. And keep in mind that the company will be soon, in the not-too-distant future, start producing gold from its Braylorn high-grade underground mine in British Columbia as well. So I see Avino Silver and Gold Mines as a very undervalued stock. It's very steady, very stable. David Wolfen has done a remarkable job of keeping the share count down, and that's really good for long-term investors as this company grows. Even if we don't get higher metals prices, which I'm anticipating we will, the growth of this company in several areas should really bode well for earnings going forward. For gold and silver miners, it is indeed an exciting time. I mean, I can tell you that if Michael Oliver is right and we're just starting to see the beginning of a bull market, it's going to be very, very exciting. So I'm going to give you just some examples from my own newsletter. We have 18 companies that I cover that are producers of gold and silver. On average, so far this year, they're up 73.8%. And the biggest winner so far in that group is, believe it or not, Metanor Resources. Now, Metanor started out with a very low share price, but it's up 171% so far this year. Then we have 26 exploration stocks. They're up an average of 104.7% this year. The biggest winner is Silvercrest Metals, which is up 329%, and Sirius Resources up 253%. The portfolio as a whole, which includes everything in my portfolio, was up 31.6% as of yesterday. That's against basically a break-even result so far for the S&P 500. Well, with so much excitement now in the gold mining sector, I hope you will consider subscribing to my newsletter, and it's $69 for 3 months, $198 for an annual subscription. I think you'll have a lot of fun, and I think potential to make a lot of money if this gold market stays strong. And, well, we're having Michael Oliver suggesting that the first major resistance shouldn't come until we see about 1450. $1,450 in the gold sector. He doesn't think that's the end of the bull market. He thinks that's just the first major resistance levels. I should also mention in my newsletter, I also cover some of Chen Lin's favorites. I keep up to date with Chen as best I can. His two biotech stocks are on my list, Sarepta Therapeutics and Sorrento Therapeutics. Two energy stocks that Chen likes very much are doing very well as well, Pan Orient and Canonical. Michael Oliver is usually on my show. He was not able to be with me today, but let me just give you a little background on something he wrote this weekend regarding the gold sector. Weekly momentum is turning up, he said, and the massive surge that peaked in the second week of February, gold backed off and then made a marginally higher high at $1,280 in March. So while the S&P exploded, this inverse market did in fact correct, but so more or less standing in place versus the price levels of that peak weekly surge in mid-February. An impressive holding, Michael says, with regard to gold. Had it matched in reverse the S&P bear market rally, gold would now be back around $1,100. So he says you should really consider gold's stability here. It's very important. Now, with the S&P 500 eroding, breaking weekly momentum support, gold weekly is taking its first positive steps the other way. It took out a prior rally and closed over the three-week average momentum average zero line for the first time since mid-March. And then Michael said, and keep in mind this was last weekend, he says, I suspect that gold will see itself at a minimum in the mid-1260s this month. Well, it didn't take long to get there because just yesterday or earlier today, in fact, in London and here in New York in the early goings, it was over $1,260. So once again, Michael Oliver has hit the nail on the head. And then earlier today, he put out another missive. He says it was titled Performance Smack in Face. And he showed that the gold shares, I think he uses one of the ETFs, is up 65% so far this year. And gold is up 19%. At the other end of the spectrum, the biotechs are down 19%. And S&P 500s, as we noted, basically break even. So this is the tectonic shift that Michael's been talking about over the past year or so in this show. I think it's very important. Now, many of you might start thinking, well, we've had quite a run here in gold. It's probably about over. Well, I would suggest you not necessarily think that. Gold is an important monetary asset. And as the world's fiat money system is in a race to the bottom with all the currencies trying to create more money and in a competitive devaluation situation, we need to only read the Financial Times today and the Treasury Secretary Jack Lew's remarks to realize that that's true. And gold will be standing while all the rest are basically declining in value. Gold shares have been so severely depressed. This is the second point I'd like you to consider. They have been so severely depressed over the last few years that they are now just really coming from an extremely oversold, or let's say enormously, ridiculously undervalued position to just a ridiculously undervalued position. So in my view, there's lots of upside for gold. I think this is just the beginning. I say that cautiously, but I believe it's true that this is just the beginning for gold. Now, let's take a look at today's show. Robert McHugh and Eric Coffin are back again, and for the first time, Scott Gibson will be joining me. Both Eric and Scott will be with me in just a few minutes to talk about an event in Vancouver that I will also be attending, and that is the Metals Investor Forum to be held on May 14th and 15th at the Georgia Hotel in the lovely city of Vancouver. I will be a guest speaker at that event, which I am really looking forward to attending, in no small part because of this turn in the gold markets. In addition to Eric, other newsletter writers who will be there are Brent Cook, Brian London, and Gwen Preston. There will be quite a number of select gold and silver exploration and mining companies at this event. And the key, not just any company is invited to speak here. It has to be a company that is invited by the newsletter writers. Avino Silver and Gold will be there at my invitation, and I have a couple more of my favorites that I think may also show up there as well. In any event, as soon as we come back from the first commercial break, Scott and Eric will tell us more about this exciting event. It is free of charge for investors, so if you are in the area, Vancouver area, or even if you are not and can find the time and resources to hop on an airplane, I hope to see you there. You do need to pre-register for this event, but that's easy enough. Just go to jtaylormedia.com, jtaylormedia.com, click on the Metal Investor Forum banner, and it takes all of less than 2 minutes to sign up. I did it myself, and it's just really quite easy. So go there, sign up. I hope to see you there.